Do you have a hero? Maybe a character from a movie like Batman or Wonder Woman? Or do you admire an actual historical figure? A famous king who is known far and wide? Well, this story centers around a man who is a little of both. In fact, it's a story so good that people have been passing it down for thousands of years. It's based upon a priest king known as Gilgamesh, who actually ruled in an area known as Uruk. Now, we don't know for sure how the character in this story is if he accurately portrays the actual king. We know that it's a little bit embellished because, as it says in the story, the character is 2/3 divine and 1/3 human. He's actually the offspring of a goddess who's in the shape of a wild cow known as Ninsun, and he has a human father. Many people think that the name Gilgamesh actually means the offspring is a hero, and it refers to that in the text. So how do we even know about this ancient ruler? His story was told in the form of poems thousands of years ago, and people would just pass along these stories by telling them around campfires. But one day, the idea came about that they should record them, and so over time, on these clay tablets, when clay was wet, they would use these wedge-shaped tools to make impressions, and that's where this story of Gilgamesh was recorded, and here's one of the actual tablets. But why would we care about such an old story? Well, I think it's because the ideas and the emotions that are in this story still ring true today, and they're viewed through they can be viewed through a modern lens. Another great leader, Captain Jean-Luc Picard, uses it to help his new friend understand their bond.
You want to hear it anyway. This story, very ancient, of course. Gilgamesh, a king. Gilgamesh, a king, at Uruk. He tormented his subjects. He made them angry.
So if you look at the textbook, and you may have already noticed this, when when it refers to the different pieces of this epic, it refers to them as tablets. Instead of saying chapter 1, chapter 2, it calls them tablets. Well, now you understand why, because they literally were written on tablets. Now, when you saw that picture of that cracked tablet, you realize that, well, there's kind of some blurred parts, and there's some parts that... So also when you read the story, you'll notice these little sections that sometimes will have an ellipse, or sometimes there'll be some repetition, because the archaeologists and the linguists who study this and are trying to translate this, there were pieces that were just not able to decipher. So that's what's happening here when you see these broken parts. So what about this King Gilgamesh? When the tablet 1 opens, we learn that he who saw the wellspring, the foundations of the land. It's a description of Gilgamesh. They really kind of go on and on about him. He knew the ways. He was wise in all things. And then they repeat that because it's so important. We learn that he built these incredible walls and to protect his people. We learned that he was perfect in height, ideally handsome. The people just had incredible things to say about him in these opening lines, until you get over to about line 55, and there's like a little throwback to what he was like as a boy. So the opening has these great ideas, what a great guy he is. And then we have this drastic switch on line 55 where it describes him like a wild bull, striding back and forth, his head thrust high. He was harrying the young men of Uruk beyond reason. Gilgamesh would leave no son to his father. Day and night he would rampage fiercely. Whoa! maybe he's not such a great guy, or he definitely was not when he was young. Now, we happen to know from the way this narrative is written that ultimately he must have come to good, because the story opens, we know, as an old man that people admired the king. But what about these other things? How does he get past these horrible characteristics that he has as a young man? As I mentioned earlier, he is an actual king. He did do some amazing things. You can still see the ruins of these walls of Uruk today. And here's just a little geography lesson about where this falls and where Mesopotamia. Today it's known as part of Iran and Iraq. But you can see where that lies there. So we know that he had these great characteristics. But we still have to reconcile, how does he come to be that great king when he had such a rambunctious start as a young man? How is it that he is going to be able to be tamed and be brought under control? Because he is stronger than all of the other people in his city.